Dez Futak on day number 37 of my 90-day internet marketing challenge. I'm coming at you today with another video on how to build a successful business, and today I just want to go a little bit further than I did yesterday. Yesterday I was talking about the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner, or an employee, being you need to develop the mindset of being a generalist, or the skills of a generalist rather than a specialist. And today I want to talk to you about something which I think is quite important, and it's something that Robert Kiyosaki discusses in his book The Cash Flow Quadrant, and that is the difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. Now, Robert has a particular definition of those things, and essentially being a self-employed means you're at the centre of a very kind of integrated hub. So you are the important person around which everything runs, whereas running a business is a very different setup. And I just want to overview that very quickly. It's a short video today. And it's this. Okay, so being self-employed means you are the business, and so if you leave the business, then the business fails. Okay, the business just dies. And that's a very serious situation to be in. A lot of people, when they start up in business and so-called fire their boss with the dreams of having that time freedom, they end up creating for themselves something that is very difficult and very time consuming and absolutely shattering in terms of exhaustion, because they end up having to manage the whole process because they're thinking like an employee rather than an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, really what they want to do is they want to set up a system which actually does the work for them. So the classic example given in Robert Kiyosaki's book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, is of a village where there was no water, and about 5 miles away there was a lake. So let's call him Jack. No, let's not call him Jack. Let's call him Jim. Jim decides that what he's going to do is he's going to get loads of buckets. He buys loads of buckets, and then he hires lots of people, and they start running between the village and the lake. So they run the 5 miles back and forth every day and bring water to the village, and they're quite successful, but they're pretty exhausted by the end of it. Whereas Jack, who's obviously Jack of all trades, master of none, Jack the entrepreneur, he sits down, he meets up with some strategic planners, with some construction companies, and he gets some finance through his bank, and what he does, he builds a pipeline. So he builds a pipeline between the lake and the village, and he provides running water for thousands of people. And that, unfortunately, that drives Jim out of business, because Jim cannot compete with running water on tap. And that is probably the key illustration that I want to leave with you about the difference between being self-employed and running a business. A business basically is a whole integration of various systems that almost run on autopilot. And the classic example that is often given is the McDonald's franchise. McDonald's, by no stretch of the imagination, produces the best hamburgers in the world, but they have an incredibly systematized setup so that the system almost runs by itself. And many other businesses since that time, when McDonald's first set up in the 1950s, have copied that idea, and guess what? They've been very successful as well. So really that's the key thing you need to get inside your head. The fundamental difference between somebody who's self-employed and somebody who runs a business. The self-employed person, in a sense, manages everything, whereas the business owner, they set up systems. And another very good book that I read called The E-Myth Revisited, and the author of the name I've forgotten, but you can click on the link down below. He basically says when you first start off your business, you end up working at the bottom of the business, right on the bottom, and you document, you write down, you produce a manual which basically systematizes the whole process, and then you find the person to follow that manual, okay, to follow that system. And you need somebody who's trainable. You don't necessarily need somebody who's got a lot of experience, but you need somebody who's trainable to follow that system, to do that, and to become successful in it. And then you move on to a different area of the business, and then you write down your experiences, you produce the training manual for that, and then you pass that on to somebody else, and gradually you basically make yourself unemployed. You don't want to be at the centre of your business, you want the business to more or less run itself, okay? And that is a very important part of the whole thing about being an entrepreneur. You need to set up systems so that they run themselves rather than you being at the centre. Okay, that's probably enough for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Bye for now.